Hello, and welcome to this podcast on exercise and nutrition. We all know that exercising and eating well are good things to do, but what effect do they have on us? Why do people keep going on about how important they are? And in what ways can we quickly improve our exercise and nutrition? Before I get into it, I want to outline that the information that I will provide to you is pretty generic. Creating an actual plan to improve your exercise and nutrition requires me to understand who you are, what difficulties you may face, and what your goals are. The purpose of this podcast is to invite you to look at your relationship with nutrition and exercise, to give you some information to assess if that's a healthy relationship, and if it's not, to point you in the right direction. Finally, if you have an eating disorder, this podcast will not be appropriate for you, and you should seek advice from a professional nutritionist or psychologist. So you might be asking yourself, my problem is that I have depression or anxiety. How is understanding my nutrition and exercise going to help me? The answer is relatively simple. A growing set of research links our minds to our bodies. If you have a healthy body, you are statistically more likely to have a healthier mind. I'm not saying that eating healthier and exercising will cure your depression and anxiety, but it could help. The first challenge most of us face is changing the way that we view our physical activity in order to not see it as something that we have to do or should do or even ought to do for our health, but as something that we want to do because we value the positive benefits to our well-being. Being active doesn't mean you have to be doing sports or going to the gym. There are many ways to be active. Find the one that works for you and get physical. So what is physical activity? At a very basic level, physical activity means any movement of your body that uses your muscles and expends energy. One of the great things about physical activity is that there are endless possibilities, and there will be an activity to suit almost everybody. It is recommended that the average adult should do between 75 and 150 minutes of exercise per week. This can be low-intensity exercises such as walking, hiking, riding a bike, or more vigorous exercises such as running, swimming fast, aerobics, or skipping with a rope. Any activity that raises your heart rate, makes you breathe more quickly, and makes you feel warmer counts towards your exercise. I put them into 3 separate categories. The first is the stuff that we usually do during our days, such as walking or cycling to work or going up and down the stairs, doing household chores, and doing the things that you might ordinarily do on a day-to-day level. The next category is more meaningful, specific types of activities that we'll do to improve our fitness, such as jogging, cycling, or lifting weights. The third and final category is structured sports. These are typically things like going on a park run, playing football, tennis, and rugby matches, or even less intensive things like snooker or darts. This category involves other people and often has set times and places. Statistically, people with mild to moderate depression and anxiety tend to move through these categories. When our symptoms worsen, we keep to the basics, which is that first category of our daily routines. We try our best to continue making our way through each day as it comes, mainly because we don't have the energy or lack the motivation to do the other categories of exercise, or even because they induce too much anxiety. This is completely normal, but when we are feeling well, we may be more likely to participate in the other 2 categories. Overall, researchers found that low-intensity aerobic exercise like walking for 30 minutes 3 to 5 times a week for 12 weeks was the best at reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety and increasing positive moods, e.g. enthusiasm and alertness. This research has led to a massive rise in prescribing exercise and nutritional plans to people alongside their therapies. That's because exercise affects you in so many different ways. It helps to lower stress by reducing your body's level of stress hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol. It also stimulates the production of endorphins, which are chemicals in the brain that are the body's natural painkillers and mood elevators. It improves self-esteem. For people with mental health problems, this is often a biggie. Mental health affects every part of your life. Social confidence, personal hygiene, and tendency to exercise and eat well, to name a few. But because exercise is in your control, and you will see physical and psychological benefits from it. While it reinforces self-care and good routines, it can be an excellent way of improving the self-esteem that so often lacks. It helps to improve sleep, energy, libido, mental alertness, and the likelihood of engaging in social interactions, all while reducing your tiredness, cholesterol levels, and symptoms of depression and anxiety over time. Overall, exercise's impact on depression and anxiety can be huge, so significant in fact that it can be used as a standalone treatment or in combination with medication and psychological therapy. In 2021, the NHS stated that regular exercise reduces the risk of depression by up to a whopping 30%. Exercise has few side effects and does not have the stigma that some people perceive to be attached to taking antidepressants or attending psychological therapy and counselling. Physical activity is available to all, has few costs attached, and is an empowering approach that can support self-management. But you probably know all that already. So why do 34% of men and 42% of women not exercise? Personally, the answer is pretty straightforward. Starting a new routine is hard, and dedicating time and energy to something that requires a lot of effort is hard for anybody, let alone somebody with depression or anxiety. They are exposed to a whole set of extra hurdles that makes exercising a lot more challenging. Before I go into some of the ways that can help you to manage that next step, let's talk about nutrition a little bit. Knowing what foods we should and shouldn't eat can be confusing, especially when it feels like the advice that we receive changes regularly. However, evidence suggests that as well as affecting our physical health, what we eat may also affect how we feel. I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm only going to go into the basics of how improving your diet may improve your mood, give you energy, and help you think more clearly. The first of which is eating regularly at regular times of the day can help you manage your blood sugar levels. When this drops, you might feel more tired, irritable, anxious, and depressed. So eating regularly and choosing foods that release energy slowly will help you keep track of your sugar levels. There are a couple ways of going about this. You could eat slow release energy foods, including pasta, rice, oats, whole grain bread, cereals, and nuts and seeds. Eating breakfast also is a good way to start the day off right. Instead of eating a large lunch and dinner, try eating smaller portions spaced out more regularly throughout the day. Avoid foods which make your blood sugar rise and fall rapidly, such as sweets, biscuits, sugary drinks, and alcohol. Staying hydrated is also a big thing that a lot of people overlook. A healthy brain contains up to 78% water, so when you don't drink enough of it, it has a big impact on you. If you don't have enough water, you may find concentrating or thinking difficult. It's recommended that you drink between 6 to 8 glasses of fluid a day. And when you lose a lot of water through sweating or going to the toilet a lot, that you replace this loss. If you find yourself sweating a lot, which is common for a lot of anxious people, it could be a good idea to include some magnesium, which is often found in seeds and nuts, and potassium, which is often found in bananas and spinach. Looking after your gut is another excellent way to try and improve your mood. Recently, there has been a lot of research showing the connections between your gut and your brain. When your gut is in poor health, it impacts a lot of mental processes such as concentration, memory, and mood. This is because the bacteria in your gut produces about 95% of the body's supply of serotonin and contains a network of hundreds of millions of neurons in the gut wall, which act as a second brain. It sends signals to our vagus nerve, which we mentioned in our coping mechanisms podcast, and transmits hormones all around your body. So it's important to look after your gut. You can do this by eating foods that nourishes your gut, including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, pulses, live yogurt, and other probiotics. Your gut also reacts negatively to a lot of sugar and processed foods that are high in trans fats. This is a point of real issue for a lot of people with depression and anxiety. Typically, when we become depressed or have increased anxiety, people tend to eat more of these foods that are highly processed or high in sugar. There are a lot of different reasons for this, but most common one is that we comfort eat. When you feel down, do you reach out for chocolate or a takeaway to try and pick you up? I am not saying that this is wrong, but I am saying that you are doing this for a reason. When you eat a lot of these foods with sugar or that are highly processed, your gut reacts to them by initially releasing loads of serotonin, which is the happiness hormone, hence why your brain craves it when you feel down. It wants that initial boost. But after an hour, your gut struggles to process these foods and it causes inflammation. That stops your gut from working properly and therefore stops the production of any more serotonin in your gut for a while, which causes your mood to drop again. So managing or even just being conscious of the different foods that you eat and the effect that those foods have on your gut could be a good way to help manage your moods. It might also take some time for your gut to get used to these new eating patterns, so be patient and give yourself time to adjust. And remember that if you experience issues with your gut, you should talk to your GP. Getting enough protein is another important way to help manage your diet. Protein contains amino acids, which help to make up all the chemicals your brain needs to regulate your thoughts and feelings. It also helps your muscles to recover and keep you feeling fuller for longer. Some good sources of protein are lean meats, fish, eggs, cheese, legumes like peas, beans and lentils, and seeds and nuts. Finally, it can be vital that you're getting enough of the right fats. Your brain needs fatty acids such as omega-3 and 6 to keep it working well. Traditionally, we often think that we need to avoid these fats altogether, but it's important that we get some, just the right kind. A lot of research has pointed to the benefits of omega-3 oils in relation to reducing the symptoms of depression, so it's important to include this in your diet. It can be found in oily fish such as salmon, but if you don't like fish, you may choose to take an omega-3 supplement. If so, choose a fish body oil supplement, as these won't cause you to get too much vitamin A, and if you're a vegetarian, you can get omega-3 from nuts, seeds, olives, eggs, and yogurt, but it's difficult for our bodies to get the omega-3 out of these food sources, so you may be better having an algae-based omega-3 supplement. If you want to find out more information about how food affects your mood, you can access the Mind and NHS websites where there is a lot of beneficial information, including how certain foods may interact with your medication, and some tips and tricks to make planning a healthier diet easier. Recently, there has been a lot of research to try and find how specific diets like keto, vegan, and the Atkinson's diets may affect depression and anxiety. For keto and Atkinson's diets, the results are inconclusive. Some research suggests that missing aspects of your diet damages your gut, but a lot of evidence also suggests that some individuals can have a huge psychological boost by following these diets, specifically people who are having treatment-resistant depression. So it could be a good thing to look into and maybe speak to a professional about. Regarding vegetarian and vegan diets, a study found that meatless diets were associated with twice the frequency of depressive episodes, predominantly due to the lack of protein in their diets. They also stated that people who were on these meatless diets who actually found alternative or supplementary protein sources had reduced risk of depression compared to an individual who was not vegetarian or vegan. So being a vegetarian or vegan but having enough protein has no effect on your depression or anxiety. So we've gone over some of the ways that you can help manage your diet, and hopefully this would help you regulate your mood. But what about the other way around? How does depression and anxiety affect the way that we eat in the first place? Firstly, depression is associated with an increased risk of a few metabolic conditions, such as obesity and type 2 diabetes. The latter is something that can be really important to monitor regularly for some people. Both type 1 and type 2 diabetes increase your risk of developing depression, and the other way around. Depression can cause diabetes, most commonly type 2. This is because typically people with depression have more difficulties regulating their metabolism and controlling their glycogen levels, but taking the steps that we have talked about should help to mitigate these risks. It is estimated that unstable blood sugars caused by a lack of protein and fibre and too much sugar can be attributed as the main cause of mild to moderate depression for around 20% of people in the UK. Incorporating these changes into your diet may take some extra effort at first, but there are things that you can do to make this process easier. Just like there are things that you can do to make your physical exercise more manageable. The first step is linked to the Goals podcast that you will listen to next week. Think about why you are choosing to eat better or do more exercise. Apart from improving your physical and mental well-being, what else do you want to get out of being active and eating well? Ask yourself if you prefer to be doing it indoors or outdoors, doing it in a group or as an individual activity, or trying a new sport altogether. If you're put off by sporty exercises or feel uninspired by limiting yourself to just one activity, think outside the box and remember that going for a walk or doing housework or even gardening are all physical activities. Also, would you rather do it alone or do an activity with a friend? This could be eating a meal or exercising with the family. Social support is a great motivator, and sharing your experiences, goals, and achievements will help you to keep focused and keep your enthusiasm up. Food tends to have a beautiful way of bringing people together, so this could be a great way of improving your social support networks. The next tip is about overcoming barriers. It can be quite scary to make changes in your life, and most people get anxious about trying something new. Some common obstacles such as cost, injury or illness, lack of energy, fear of failure, or even weather can hinder people from getting started. However, practical and emotional support from friends and family and experts do help. Body image can be a barrier to participating in physical activity and dieting. People who are anxious about how their body will look to others while exercising may avoid exercise altogether. For women, attending a female-only exercise class or a ladies-only swimming session may help to overcome this anxiety as a barrier to initially starting exercise. Exercising with a companion can also help to reduce stress about how your body looks to others, and may be particularly helpful during those first few exercise sessions. The environment can also be influential on how you feel. Gyms with mirrored walls tend to heighten anxiety, as does exercising near a window or other space where you might feel on show. We can help improve our chances of overcoming these barriers by thinking about what could go wrong, being realistic of the impact that they could have on us, and setting out a plan to overcome them. I realise this sounds pretty idealistic, and it is. Often these are changes that people who are depressed and anxious will struggle to make in those low moments. But if you make the plan in those low moments, when you're feeling better, in a day or a week or even a month, you'll be much more likely to stick to this plan. And then, over time, the plan will become part of your routine while you are feeling well, and it becomes a lot more easier to stick to when you're feeling low again. I often use 5 main ideas when curating these plans to try and overcome the barriers that I face when starting something new. I identify the barriers, manage my time, think if it's practical and does it suit me, and then try to make it a routine. The first of these steps is pretty self-explanatory, but is something that is often thought about in the wrong way. Instead of seeing these barriers as something that we have identified as something that might stop you from doing what you want to achieve, try to view them as something that will make it harder or make it take longer. They won't stop you from making the progress that you want to do to improve yourself. What we want to do is acknowledge their existence and create a plan to mitigate their impact on you. That's where the next 4 ideas come in. Managing your time is something that most people struggle with. We often have negative associations with time, seeing that as something that is either going too slowly, that the day can't seem to end quickly enough, or that it's going too fast, and it feels like we don't have enough time to do anything. These feelings are pretty normal and are heavily linked to people who don't plan properly. So let's make a plan of how we're going to find time to take part in exercise and eat well. For exercise, think about what time you have available. You may need to rejig commitments to make room for extra activities or choose something that fits into your busy schedule. You could prepare yourself by laying out the equipment ready for the time that you allotted to do the exercise in. You could also use the idea of preparation to improve your nutrition. You could have peeled, washed, or chopped the vegetables in advance when you get a free 20 minutes and keep them in a Tupperware box ready for whenever you need them. You could even pre-prepare whole meals if you wanted to. Be practical. By practical, I mean it in both of its definitions. To be an idea or plan that is likely to succeed, and the actual act of doing something or use of something. Think about the barriers that you identified. Are they something that you feel you can overcome now, or do you need to adjust your goals to be something more realistic for you? You can be flexible. Goals can change and adapt. Think about if this plan is adequately thought out. Will it change or have an impact on your life? Do you know how much it will cost, and if necessary, what you can do to make it affordable? And finally, to be realistic in your goal. We aren't aiming for you to become an Olympic athlete here, or to commit to a whole new diet and never break it. Just to make a conscious effort to make your life better by improving your health in some way, no matter how small. And I know I'll contradict myself a little bit here, but try and think less. Often people with depression and anxiety overthink things, but these plans are for changes in our behaviour, not our thoughts. Although these are critical first steps, I encourage you to take action, even if it's just making a shopping list or Googling nice places to walk near you. Take that next step, make it actionable. The next thing I tend to think about is if it actually suits me or not. Think about what parts of your body you want to exercise, whether you prefer to be active at home or fancy a change of scenery or exercise in a different environment, like indoors or outdoors. Does this difference in nutrition stop you from doing anything in your life? This step is about making sure that it's right for you, that you're not just saying you're going to do something for the sake of it. Do you actually want to do it, and is it realistic to who you are? And finally, I try and make it a routine. Adopting a more healthy lifestyle can be as simple as doing a daily task more energetically, or making minor changes to your routine, such as walking up a flight of stairs rather than getting the lift. Starting slowly, if physical activity is new, it's best to build up your ability and challenge yourself gradually. Focus on task goals such as improving sport skills or stamina rather than competition. And keep a record of your activity and review it to provide yourself feedback on your process. There are many apps and social networks available for free to try and help you with this. Goals are important to help you measure progress, which help to motivate you. Remember that you won't see improvement from physical conditioning every day, but regularly committing to physical activity is an achievement in itself, and every activity session can improve your mood. At home, you can do loads of activities without even leaving your front door, all that involve minimal cost. It can be as simple as pushing your lawnmower around with extra vigour, speeding up with the housework, or doing an exercise DVD or YouTube video in the living room. If you're at work, whether you're on your feet, sitting at a desk, or behind a wheel during your working hours, there are many different ways that you can feel more active. Have a think, what things can you introduce to your days that encourage physical activity? It could be walking up and down the stairs at work, or going into work by cycling or walking, or during your lunch hour taking a brisk walk, exercise class, or even a swim if there's a local gym near you. Being outdoors is another prime time for boosting your activity levels. Research suggests that physical activity in an outdoor green environment has greater positive effects on your well-being than being indoors. Small changes from leaving the car at home for a short journey or getting off at the bus stop earlier could all contribute to improving your mood. Over time, these changes will just become another thing that you do, and you won't have to think about it anymore. And that's what we want. We want exercise and good nutrition to just be part of our routine. For other ideas for starting or keeping up with physical activity or nutrition, the NHS Choices website has a number of tools to help people getting started with physical activities, including exercises for older people, strength and flexibility videos, advice for taking up new sports, and advice of getting started with walking. For nutritional information, some great places to look are the Eat Well Guide for the basics and the British Nutrition Foundation for specific information about healthy diets, nutritional needs through different stages of life, and how nutrition interacts with different health conditions. Thank you for your time and for your attention. I hope this episode has been interesting for you, and I'll see you in the next podcast.